Hey, welcome to the podcast. So happy to have you here today. Recently, I wrote a blog about spiritual bypassing, and I was on Facebook to post something in a local group, one of the local spiritual groups. I think it was about my retreat that was coming up. And there was a comment there from a lady that grabbed my attention. I don't normally go sort of reading other people's posts that much, but this one grabbed my attention. She was talking about when she went to a local event. It was, I don't know if it was a meditation event or a sound healing, something like that. And she arrived a little bit late and she was a bit flustered and she couldn't find her ticket to get in. It must have just been an electronic ticket on her phone. And the people at the door were being really unhelpful towards her, and she ended up basically leaving and going into the car park, back into a car, and just crying in frustration, really, that, they were so unhelpful. And she was talking about this concept that, what is wrong with the spiritual community when there is no compassion? And it was so timely because I had just released my blog and about that exact topic. So, yeah, let's just have a little chat about that. And when I talk about this, I am coming from a place of understanding this deeply because I've been there. I've been in that love and light. It's all rainbows and lollipops, and I'm Teflon, and everything just slips right off me, and I don't get angry and I don't get frustrated, and I won't say, anything negative or allow any negative thoughts to come into my world. And that's what I'm talking about, because expressing yourself in that way is complete bypassing. It is not allowing yourself to feel the feelings. It's not allowing yourself to actually understand what's going on underneath the hood. It's just bypassing the emotions. It's bypassing your feelings. It's bypassing what's true to you and what's happening in the moment. And I feel that it's actually quite dangerous, and it seems to be quite prevalent as well. And I talk to other people about this, and they really feel that this is happening a lot in the communities out there. And I think people have this fear of, oh, well, I should be evolved, so I can't set boundaries because then people will think that I'm, a bitch, or I haven't, evolved into this. I haven't ascended into this place of where everything's just all love and light, and everyone just loves on each other. And look, that space is great where we have compassion, we have empathy, and we're helping and we're standing by people and we're supporting people. That's not what I'm talking about here, because that is valuable and that's so needed out there in all different types of communities. What I'm talking about here is that real bypassing, that real avoidance, the real avoidance of actually sitting with how you feel, sitting with what is going on, with how you're reacting, what you're responding to, and what that's doing to not only your nervous system, but what it's doing to you as a spiritual being. And we can't fully arrive in our humanness if we are just constantly bypassing what it means to be human. And I shared a personal story in my blog and in my YouTube video that I've done about this topic. Was when I was dealing with this external company, and certain things were put in place. I'd explained what my needs were, the time frame, all of these things. They said that would be there at a certain time, and they weren't. And I called them, and we're getting there. We're on our way. And this went on for a few hours, and it was getting quite late in the day. And I called them again. I think this was like the fifth time, and by this time, I was getting quite firm with them and quite direct and explaining how much of an impact this was having on me when they weren't delivering what they said that they would deliver. I got off that phone call and I had a friend with me, and I was just sharing my frustration with them, and they said to me, oh, I thought all this daily meditation that you were doing means that you don't get angry. And to be honest, that really made me more frustrated. I wasn't angry at this stage. I was very frustrated, and that comment made me more frustrated because yes, I do meditate every day, and yes, I have all these practices in place to regulate my nervous system. That does not mean that I allow people to just walk all over me. Like, that is not how this operates. This concept of, we're just floating around in the world and let anybody do whatever they want to us, and us not, and us constantly being okay with that. That's not how this works. And so I, yeah, had that conversation with said friend. And yeah, it's highlighting the fact that there is this, I don't know if it's a misconception or it's, yeah, I'm not really sure what it is, if it is just that misconception, or it's this process of, well, you do this, so then you can't be enlightened, or you must not be evolved if you still get angry and frustrated. Now, anger is a necessary emotion as far as I'm concerned. I personally have had a lot of issues with expressing anger. I've always said I don't get angry. I'm a generator, so I get frustrated, and I really resonate with the not self theme of a generator of being frustrated, because I get frustrated a lot. Anger, not so much so. And however, I can look back and I can reflect on times where I was feeling anger and I was suppressing that feeling. I wasn't allowing that to come out. I wasn't allowing it to be expressed. I wasn't allowing myself to work through that. And what happened was, that if it was in a particular situation and that just kept on going, this anger just manifested, and it bubbled and bubbled and bubbled, and then it would explode. And it would explode in a way that was embarrassing. It would explode in a way that I then felt a lot of guilt and a lot of shame about how I exploded. And it it also meant that I went into this victimhood, because then I would be, exploding this anger, and I would be saying all of these things that I didn't actually feel were truth for me. It was just a way for me to then just get all this emotion that was stuck in my system. And that's how it went for me. And I think a lot of people can resonate with that, because we are taught and we learn that anger is bad, and to be anger means that you're an angry ant, and you can't deal with your own emotions, or you can't work through things in some logical way. And I feel that, like, healthy anger is good for us to be able to express anger and how it comes up in our life in a healthy way, and in a productive way, is really beneficial for us. Setting your boundaries, or letting someone know how they've overstepped that boundary, or how you feel about a certain situation. It's There is a healthy way to express that. And I've also come to realize that when we suppress that anger, it is getting trapped in the body. Being ruled by anger is very different to listening to anger. And so when we can listen to that anger, or whatever that strong emotion is, then we have the ability to process that. And the Kabbalah have this concept. They talk about, like, shells or husks, and they form around the soul, where, or when light is not properly integrated. And you can think about this like metaphysical barriers or illusions that block the divine light. So when we are bypassing, it doesn't mean that we are removing that darkness. What it is doing, it's actually encasing that. And what is encased doesn't disappear. It finds another way to surface. And most often than not, that's in the body, right? And so that's when we suffer from chronic fatigue or that tension. And then we have these physical patterns that we just can't seem to break. And it doesn't matter how much inner work we do, we can't seem to break these, these patterns that are happening within us. And it's also fascinating, well, I find fascinating in terms of internal family systems. This is a protector part that we've developed. So it could be anger, because I'm talking about that in particular. It could be anger. And that protector part of us developed for a very good reason. And, she was keeping the pain at a very manageable level and a very manageable distance, because we don't, yet have the capacity to meet it directly. So this protector part comes in, and, it's protecting us from meeting that fully. And so what we need to do is we need to develop our nervous system. We need to develop the capacity to be able to hold that, to be able to meet that, to be able to express that emotion, if it's anger or whatever it is, in a way that is healthy for us and is helping us move through that. And so we really want to honor that protector part of ourselves that have been there to keep us from that pain. And we can thank her for that. There comes a point though where we need to allow that protector part to take a step back, that they don't need to keep protecting us anymore, because that's what's keeping us stuck, or that's what's keeping us feeling stuck. And if I just circle back to what spiritual bypassing actually is, so the actual term was coined by a guy by the name of John Wellwood, and he was a Buddhist teacher. He was a psychotherapist, and back in the mid 1980s, he coined this term. And what he says was that, well, he described this as a tendency to use spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep or avoid facing unresolved emotional issues and psychological wounds. So let's just put that in plain language. What that actually means is that before we've made peace with what's actually going on beneath the surface, we try and rise above it. We skip the actual human part and we go straight for the transcendence, straight for this transcendence of not meeting that, like just rising above it and not actually dealing with the humanness part of this. And we're doing ourselves a disservice with that. Like, we are missing all the goodness of what it means to be a spiritual being in this human body, and all the humanness that goes along with that. And from the outside, this can look like genuine growth. Like, you can even feel like it from the outside, that we're generally growing in this way. And we think, well, I'm all light and love, and everything out there is great. It can feel like we're moving forward. And for me, like, I have realized the cruel irony around that is that sometimes the more spiritual literate we become, the more sophisticated our avoidance gets. And so we develop better tools, and then we can use them to actually build a more elegant escape route. And I know I did this very early on in my journey, and I can look back in hindsight and I can recognize that now. And I think once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you see it in yourself, you can actually see it in other people. And I find that, a fascinating part of this evolution and this growth and this journey that we're on. I can look back at examples of, well, everything happens for a reason. That was one of my favorite sayings, everything happens for a reason. That's great. It's a good saying. However, if we're just using that before we've actually allowed ourselves to feel the impact of what happened, then we're just bypassing that. Oh, it all happened for a reason. When we haven't actually sat with that. Or we might just say, well, that was just a lesson or part of my journey, before we've actually grieved what that was. And so this is what I'm talking about in terms of the bypassing. Like, those things can be true and we can be bypassing at the same time. So yeah, it's all this high vibration language and, all these things of just bypassing the actual feeling underneath that. So I guess this is my reminder to you that if you are on a spiritual journey and you are going inward, you're doing the inner work, is to be open to the concept of spiritual bypassing and seeing if you can recognize that in yourself with no shame, no guilt around that, because it's a very easy trap to get into because of, again, the conditioning and the expectations from other people. So allow yourself to sit with what you're feeling and ask yourself, am I bypassing this? Am I using my spiritual tools to actually try and transcend above my humanness? And I think that's really important for all of us. Whether you're on a spiritual journey or not, I think it's really important for us to be able to sit with ourselves, to be able to look within and ask the questions. What is going on inside of me? What is happening in this particular moment? Why am I reacting or responding in this way? Asking yourself these deep questions, that allows you to get into your inner truth, into your inner wisdom, and really understanding what is going on for you. Okay, my loves. Well, that's sort of my little rant about spiritual bypassing. I would love to hear how you feel about that. If you've witnessed it in yourself, or maybe you've witnessed it in other people, I would love to hear your comments about that. And so until next time, I hope you have a lovely non spiritual bypassing journey ahead. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.